Greetings, good people. What's up? What's happening? My name is Dr. Clarence, and welcome back to TV7 Live, where we get to give you all the hottest and top trending topics, broadcasting live and direct from Zimbabwe, Africa. Here, we see President Edi where out of Africa in China. Now this time, he's come out guns blazing. In a very controversial speak, we see him there. Remember, he is in China, and on his team, he's got his son as a member of the delegation there. Collins Mnangagwa. Remember, Collins is a soldier also trained there in China. So President Mnangagwa is trained in China at Nanjing Military College, Military Academy there. So I've done some few researches there about this academy. Guys, this academy does not train troopers. No, it's a commander academy. And we saw the man parading himself there at that Nanjing Military Academy there, posing for images with members of the Chinese military. Now here, we're just gonna watch the clip there. Mnangagwa speaks a lot of nonsense there. And in this one, we're gonna be straight up in this one, because what we are fighting for in Zimbabwe is equality and justice, and it is our number one agenda to make sure that we crush every prejudice, every maliciousness, every that needs to be crushed. So, fellow Zimbabweans, in this video, I'm not going to be using any of my biases or my prejudices, things like that. Remember the role of comedy. So this one is going to be straight up irony. Fellow Zimbabweans, if you're not offended by this video, you shouldn't be happy.
There is a huge contrast between where we come from and here. In Zimbabwe, the land is so vast and it's empty. So
he says Zimbabwe, the land is so vast and is empty. Does that make sense? In that, come on, China, there's 1 billion people. How many people do we have in Zimbabwe? Anyways, what is the sense and the context of this guy's speak? Let's just continue it. Let me let it finish before I can interject on it.
Individual families can utilize land to the maximum of their own strength. But here, because of the constraint of land, you can see how they maximize every piece of land towards production to feed themselves. So this is the difference between abundance of land and a few people. And the more people, but with limited land, it makes people get more organized. We are not organized because the land can go for 500 kilometers, there's nobody. So this is the lesson.
So here, Mnangagwa is very serious and very sincere in this one. If we read his body language, it means something that we can get an insight of some of his beliefs, his personal beliefs in this one here. So in whatever we do in life, as we be dealing with the enemy within, we need to know what we are fighting.
There is a huge contrast between where we come from and here. In Zimbabwe, the land is so vast and there's
a huge contrast in what? He's weak. He's very disturbed. There is emotional about something. Remember, Mnangagwa has his own farm, which is not performing to my expected level, my personal expected level of how a farm, a president should be farming. Maybe for him, he's feeding his family, that if that's what it's for, or exporting to whatever he is exporting to. But I don't think somebody with access to capital should make a certain level of poor investments.
Empty. So individual families can utilize land to the maximum of their own strength.
He's saying individuals can maximize land to the maximum strength they can. They maximize land utilization. The only limit is land. But the people there, they maximize every inch of soil.
But here, because of the constraint of land, you can see how they maximize every piece of land towards production to feed themselves.
So here he's talking about land, every piece of land towards production. Now, what is he going to say about the people there? He puts 2 points. Here, let us take note of the body language, the tone that he is using, and where he changes a tone. I think you've watched me making videos. There's a time I change tones when I mean a certain explanation. Like, let's say I'm putting an interjection, I'm reacting to myself. But why would you be reacting to yourself? I need to tell some news. Okay. Just ask yourself. Okay. Something like that.
So this is difference between abundance of land and a few people.
He puts now the contrast, abundance of land and a few people. The word people doesn't mean the numbers in population. He means people that he considers people, right? We will come to equality. What is equality? What is a people? Are peasants people? Are civilians people? Are non-civilians people?
And more people, but with limited land.
And more people with limited land. Big up to Daniel Chinyemba. How are you? Obviously, people are different. All people are the same in that we are the same species.
It makes people get more organized. We are not
organized, makes people go organized.
Not organized because the land can go for 500 kilometers, there's nobody.
Here is where he changes his tone or demeanor. Big up to Daniel Shinyemba watching us live. He gives an example. Now, this one would take not calculation, but it doesn't take common sense because common sense is common. Common means substandard. Okay? It will take spiritual sense.
It makes people get more organized.
He says you go for 500 kilometers and there's no people in that. Of all the roads we have between point A and B in Zimbabwe, a road that goes 500 kilometers without meeting anything. So anybody who doesn't need to think, it is something that just gets into their subconscious and they get the sense without explaining. It means there is no 500 kilometer radius where we can't find people. Obviously there is, but we think in terms of roads and connections that connect us. You go for 500 kilometers, there are no people. And also, when we're traveling, the roads we have, maybe we may go for 30 kilometers. We see vast lands in Zimbabwe. So speaking of land, not land as in the soil, but mixed speak there, he's being allegorical. No people. Is avasi vanhu vachona kuno kuchina kune vanhu but havana land ku Zimbabwe tine land asati na vanhu.
We are not organized because the land can go for 500 kilometers. There's no.
He says we are not organized, right? So Mnangagwa here admits that we are not organized. Big up to man soldier. Zimbabwe don't prosper in his hands. Let's find a better way to outsmart him. Thank you very much for the use of the words outsmart. That is very smart there. Glot Nkiwane, enough respect, says, am I confused or His Excellence is? You are not confused. Nobody is confused. You can only be confused by somebody. You cannot be confused when you are one. Con, there's the word con fuse, mix up, you can get vexed by external factor. So let's go back to the word outsmart. Outsmart generally means to outwit, right? Or to outplay, to outmaneuver. So basically, I didn't want to give those definitions first. To outmaneuver. But outsmart, in generally, we perceive it as being cleverer than, or so-called more intelligent than, or having more plans than. Now, speaking in terms of what smart is, Nanjing Military Academy, where ED is trained there. The things they train the people there, it is not athletics, military athletics, as in how do you handle the power tool we call a gun, not a drill. Drills are the marching routines which they do so that they memorize them. So this military training is not weapons training where any club, you can go to any club and learn to operate a gun, or you can just teach yourself to operate a gun. A grenade is even easy. You just pull a pin. So most of us, when we think of military training, we think of things like those guys will be trained to deal with weapons, and also maybe like athletes, they're going to be trained to feed themselves right with proteins and weightlifting, and they're going to be trained karate. So karate would make sense. This Nanjing school would be a school of military other type of karate. This one is not physical karate. So here there's no sarcasm or irony or incongruity, but it is a paradoxical and intriguing sense there happening here. So I'm gonna go straight. There's no need to give allegories in these expurgations. Bear with me, guys. Sorry. Sometimes I don't know why I use those so-called big words. They mean what they mean. Okay. But there's some words that mean something that is very, very specific. They cannot be misquoted. Why would one misquote it? They may misquote because if they hear a certain thing used with the word that they normally use wrongly, they may misunderstand. Most Zimbabweans do not know the real meaning of words. So we may have a conversation, two people, and we understand each other. But what I'm saying is not what you are understanding, but we can have a conversation for a lifetime. Now, that is a very interesting philosophy and an interesting study of social dynamics that happens on this earth, which brings us even deeper into our spirituality, how the spiritual reality operates, how we can manage to survive on this earth and stay alive, yet all that you know is to graze grass like you are just a cow with no brain to think of any sense, or like a bird of the air that doesn't worry, what am I going to eat tomorrow? But maybe you are dumber than a raven. So, Mnangagwa says, Zimbabwe, amuna vanhu. Kuvarimo vari kuitei. So, fellow Zimbabweans, you should be very angry and take action following this statement by Mnangagwa. Imagine, how dare he say things like that? Who does Mnangagwa think he is such that he can say something like that? Who do it? Sorry, this president. Big up to everybody who was watching us live. Dr. Clarence is the name. TV7 Live is the channel. As always, thank you for watching, and I'm out. Hands in a Pakistani. Masquerade say dog. Apana kwatiri kuenda. Nedanda head. Watching from Bloemfontein. Hayo ndio wakatoziguna wakatenda somewhere. At least you are leading your path there. That's great.